Alrighty, guys. Squid Game Season 2 has just wrapped up, but surprise, surprise, for me at least, when I finish Squid Game Season 2, Season 3 is coming out very, very soon. This segment in the podcast will contain a very minor spoiler, not even necessarily about the structure, or the story, rather, of Squid Game Season 2, but just the structure of it. And so if you don't want to know structurally how they're approaching Seasons 2 and 3, then feel free to click off. But I'm not going to be revealing anything about the story if that is what you're worried about. So feel free to stick around if you haven't seen it and you're not, you just don't want to know anything about the story. So Squid Game Season 2, the big revelation, and the thing that I didn't know, I talked about this in my personal review of Squid Game 2, which I quite enjoyed, save for this one thing, and the fact that this season of Squid Game Season 2 is not a full season. It's half a season. And I had my thoughts on that. You can go check out my full spoiler and non-spoiler review of Squid Game Season 2. But basically, the whole thing was that it looks like Seasons 2 and 3 are going to be one giant continuous season that they wanted to split up at a certain point. And I know that different movies and different shows have done it better than others. I think Dune Part 1 is honestly half of a movie. I think Dune Part 2 is a continuation of that half movie. I think Across the Spider-Verse is very similar, but I think a film like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, as it used to be called, or Wicked Part 1, as it used to be called, because I think it's just Wicked now. I could be wrong. Anyways, Wicked Part 1, these are examples to me of Part 1s that do it amazingly, do it really well, because they feel like complete stories. And that's just my opinion. If you feel differently, totally fine. Even if you love Across the Spider-Verse, which I know a lot of you do, I think that, one of the common things that I've heard, at least from people who love it, who don't like it, and for me who likes it a lot, is just that it's frustrating because it just doesn't feel like a complete movie. And of course, you can make the arguments about Lord of the Rings and Empire Strikes Back and whatnot. So again, I understand. But anyway, Squid Game Season 2, just, I really liked it. I thought it was quite good. It didn't quite capture the highs of Season 1, which is fine because Season 1 I think is remarkable. But we head into Season 3 and we're like, okay, so a lot of what we think of Season 2 is really going to hinge on Season 3 because Season 3 is really just Season 2 Part 2. I talked in my review about Loki, right? The way that Loki was structured is bizarre to me. Why didn't they make this one giant 12-episode season? Because literally, Season 2 of Loki, Episode 1, takes place, I've said this many times, seconds, literal seconds after the end of Loki Season 1. So it feels so confusing. Anyways, so we're getting a Season 3. The question had been, when? They said, and they had been teasing, we're going to get it in 2025, which Squid Game Season 2 released about 4 or 5 days before the end of 2024. So literally at the very end of 2024, basically early 2025. And we had been getting reports from the creator of the show that we were going to be getting Squid Game Season 2 in 2025. And now, with all of the Netflix promotional stuff going on this past week, we have an official release date here. And Squid Game Season 3 with a really crazy looking poster with one of the circle mask people, circle mask soldiers, I guess, carrying, looks like a dead body, a dead player, into one of those coffins, those brightly colored coffins, and it says Squid Game 3 on it. This is the first promotional poster, first promotional image, and it says prepare for the final game. Singular, interestingly enough, singular game, only on Netflix, June 27th. So, looks like we are going to be getting Squid Game 3 in just about 6 months. The question for me is, why they decided to market it like this? Why is it Squid Game Season 2 and Squid Game Season 3 instead of Squid Game Season 2 Part 1 and Squid Game Season 3? Squid Game Season 2 Part 2? I think that you could have gotten a lot of mileage out of that anyways. I think they've done that with shows like Cobra Kai and whatnot. Honestly, I wonder if you could have gotten even more mileage out of that if you had done that. Because I think, sure, like Squid Game Season 3, but, people are going to be like, wait, why? If you hadn't seen Season 2 at least, if you were going to be like, well, then why would I watch Season 2, right? It's like, it doesn't feel like it matters until you know the structure, until you know what's going on, and the fact that they're just basically splitting up one big season of television. And I get it, Netflix, you don't want to put, all 14 episodes or however long it's going to be in one go. Hint, why don't you try just dropping an episode at a time? That seems to work for a lot of other studios. Anyways, they were obviously very famous for the binge model, but honestly, I think that it's about time they really start to drop episodes in batches. Like, I'm not saying 1 a week. You don't have to do that, but like 2 a week, I feel like would be fine. I really do wonder what they're going to do with Stranger Things 5, which we'll talk about either early or later on in this podcast. But anyways, I think that it's an interesting thing that, we are going to get I think it's going to be something like 14 episodes of Squid Game in the span of 6 months. And it's going to be 2 different seasons, apparently. It's all sort of a naming convention, I suppose, because it doesn't make a huge difference in terms of the quality of these projects. That being said, I still think it's a little strange what's going on here. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to kind of, make out what the rationale is, other than just Netflix saying, hey, we want to get more viewers and whatnot. So Squid Game Season 3 is coming out. And they released a synopsis. I'm not going to read the synopsis here because it contains pretty major spoilers for the very end of Season 2. But from the synopsis, it's basically what we thought it was going to be, For those of you who have seen Season 2, no spoilers again, but just basically what happens at the very end of Season 2, literally the last shot of Season 2, looks like it's just going to continue on. And we have some characters with some very unresolved arcs because of just the fact that it's halfway through a season of television, in my mind. So some very unresolved arcs going on here, but I think that looks like we're going to be heading towards resolution. So guys, Squid Game Season 3, rather, coming out in just about 6 months. In fact, just under 6 months. What do you guys think of that? And are you excited for a Squid Game Season 3? I am. I'm certainly excited for a Squid Game Season 3, even though, again, I had my own frustrations with Season 2. But let me know, what did you think about Season 2? I haven't heard from a lot of you guys about Season 2, so I would be very curious to see if you enjoyed Season 2 and the way that they structured it, or, maybe you didn't. Let me know in the comments down below.